Books make you hope. Books make you dream. Books make you laugh. Books make you scream. This is the Books That Make You show. Discussing books with authors and experts, unraveling the inner pages of all the books that help make us who we are. Hosted by Desiree Duffy.
Welcome, one and all. It is the Books That Make You show, and I am your host, Desiree Duffy. And today, we're talking about books that make you want to escape on an intergalactic adventure. Think back to when you were in high school, a young adult. All that frustration and angst that you felt, trying to fit in, resisting your parents, trying to push you into doing what they wanted. And of course, girls or boys, ugh, right? Now imagine all of that with an intergalactic setting and you needing to do things like, save the world. Kevin Groh is our guest author today, and he wrote and created the Omni Legends book series and is crazy successful in his home country of Germany. And his first book in the series is called The Commander, and it's releasing in the United States. It just released, as a matter of fact. It's a young adult fiction for young men and anybody who loves sci-fi, with all of the adventure and suspense and action that you might expect from an imaginative mind like Kevin's. He was an Amazon Kindle Select All-Star in sales every month from August until December in 2019. And let's see what 2021 has in store with this new US release for Mr. Groh. Hi, Kevin. Welcome to the show.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. We're going to have a fun conversation. So start with the big picture. Let's set up this universe because it is expansive. You have created something that is just almost mind-boggling as far as the Omni Legends universe. Can you tell us about it?
Yeah, it started because I'm such a huge nerd, and that means I'm a super big nerdy fan of superheroes and anything that's somehow connected to it. So of course I love the Marvel, the cinematic universe they have, the DC universe, also some video game series. And what really hits me with those, also with the DC, with the Arrowverse on the TV, they are all connected. So every single story they have is somehow happening in the same world, like all the others, and they are interconnected to each other. So they can influence each other. And if you have watched one of them, you understand more of the other one. And for me, as a nerd, that's kind of perfect. I love it to dig into this. And this is what I had in mind when I wanted to create the Omni Legends series. So I wanted to have the option to use references within the books, to team up my characters, to have some sort of synthesis between the books. So I have now, yeah?
No, go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, I have now created, at least in my head for now, a universe consisting of stories from several heroes with each of them having their own unique powers, their own problems. And I wanted those things to happen parallel. So we have several stories happen at the same time, but spread out in different places. And since I'm using science fiction technology and at the same time magic, which don't really mix, I had to find some sort of explanation to make it sound like authentic and it could be possible. Mm-hmm. So I decided to spread those stories onto different planets in the same universe. And this is what I call the Omni Galaxy, or the Omni Legends universe.
Now, setting this up, it just must have been a monumental task. How did you do it? Have you made storyboards? Do you have lots of different documents online? Did you print things out? Do you have like a big wall with all of these planets and characters? How physically have you set up this universe?
Aside from actually sketching some country maps on a piece of paper, everything is entirely digital. So I'm a German, so I like to have it structured with a lot of files and folders. But I'm using a German authoring tool, and they have a mind map option. So you have this mind map functionality in it. And I started out thinking, like, what could it look like? So I put out planet Earth first, because I wanted that my story is relatable. It could actually happen in our universe. This is why the Omni Galaxy basically is just a synonym for the Milky Way. And we have planet Earth in there. The solar system is present. And then I decided the first character I want to start with is the commander. So it will happen somewhere around actually planet Earth. And that's what I thought, okay, we don't know anything about our neighboring star systems. They might have some scientific names, but we don't really know anything specific about it. And I played with that idea. So I created 4 sectors within the universe that are closest to us, and then created star systems in them and decided, okay, there could be aliens on there. There could be some other human colonies out there. And then I just spread it out on the map. I gave them names. I decided what aliens are living on which worlds, how are they related, how can you get from one place to another. And then quickly became pretty huge. So that mind map is pretty big by now. Yeah, but that's the main tool that I'm using to at least map out the universe.
I love it. I love it. You're playing God in a way, but it's so creative and fun. And, yeah. So let's dig specifically into the commander, because this is the first book now releasing here in the United States. People can grab their copy. Can you tell us more specifically about this book?
Well, yeah, the commander is supposed to set the whole Omni Legends universe up, but without really making clear that it's connected to other books, which are not out there yet. But there are already hints hidden in the book, which will only become understandable for actual nerds like me as soon as the other books are coming out. But for now, those are happening in those 4 sectors, mainly on the first human colony that we have created outside planet Earth. It happens, I think, 200 to 300 years from now. I didn't specify that exactly. And humanity was forced to leave Earth. At least parts of the people had to leave Earth because of overpopulation. And they just went out into the universe to find another planet we could colonize. And they found one in the neighboring star system, which is called Utopia Beta. It has similar traits to planet Earth, just with less water. And that's where the story of the commander is starting, because the first commander is the origin story. He starts out as just a regular guy who is, of course, a privileged son, so he's not regular. But he doesn't have any specific powers or skills or anything. He's just living a life as a privileged child. He had private schooling. He had some fun with parkour training, archery, and stuff that young people do if they're just bored at home and have a lot of money. Yeah.
And he soon finds out that his privilege will only get him so far, because he has to ultimately step up and be a hero that he was meant to be, right?
Which is not really what he has in mind at the beginning of the book. So he's drafted into the military by force. That's because Utopia is governed by a mix of corporations and the military. And they have a unique material on that planet. I call it Synthium. And because of that material, 2 alien races have started a war with humanity. So they don't even know what the actual reason might be for it, but they need soldiers. And that's why they have the ability to just force draft young people into the military. And that's what happens to Carter. And since he is also the son of the pioneer for Synthium technology, they try to use him as leverage against his father as well. And then he comes into this military training camp, and he has no clue what's going to happen there. Meeting his new colleagues, his new comrades. Some of them are not from the privileged area of the planet. They don't like the privileged people. They are pissed just because he is privileged. He has troubles with the people. He has trouble with the trainers, with the instructors. And he has to realize, okay, life is not as easy as I'm used to. What am I going to do now?
Yeah, it's a great story of angst and just that frustration. And I think we can all relate to that. And I'm curious too, I mean, how much of you has been pulled into this character? Are you pulling back, remembering in your high school days, things like that?
I was a quiet guy, so I wasn't really bullied or anything. But I was thinking about it, and I think that there is no author out there who is not putting some part of his own personality into his characters. Because how could you create a character that you cannot relate to and make it still somehow authentic to the reader. I don't think that's possible. So at some point we have, in every character, we find characteristics of ourselves. It's just different facets of who we are. And when I created Carter, that was basically the person I was at the time when I wrote it, which has been like 3 or 4 years ago when I actually started out with that story. And he starts as someone who's really insecure. He's in a new environment. He's forced to do things he doesn't know, has to find his way around, get along with the comrades. And that's something we all probably experienced sometime in our lives, especially being forced to do stuff you don't want to and just have to find a way to make the best of it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the universal truth that you bring into your writing is we can all identify as human beings, but then we just have this incredible setting in this backdrop in this world you've created. And it just kind of goes to show you that there are certain aspects of humanity that exist within all of us, no matter what time it is in history, no matter what setting we might be on, no matter who the quote unquote bad guys might be, whether they're aliens or other forces here on planet Earth. So tell me a little bit, because you've released this, and obviously you are a German author. You're in Germany right now, so this is great that we're doing this interview. How was it? What's the experience like going from publishing in Germany to now being a US author?
I think that most of the, I always call it standard processes that you have when writing a book are not that different. You just have to sit down, write the stuff you think is cool, and then see if you can get other people to like it too. The main difference that I realize now for global or especially US release is of course the language. I mean, I am capable of English to some extent, but of course there are things in this, especially in the US language, that someone who's not a native speaker in that country just could never comprehend. So I have to find help for that. And that's what I did. So this is the first book I really had professionally edited so that it makes most sense to the US readers. And the other side is, of course, the marketing stuff. I mean, I can publish books in Germany because I know what the market is like, what the people's mentality is like, how I can get to them best. At least I can try. But you never know how the mentality and the people are really in another country if you don't live there. So it's always a good idea. And for me, it was necessary to find help for that. See, how can I get to the people? How can I get my story across? Get people excited for the story and all of that. So this is a major difference for me.
And I think people are getting excited about this book and this series because, like you mentioned, there's the Marvel universe, and we've had that now for many years, and we love it. And you're right; it's fun to watch different movies and television shows, whether it's Arrow or some of the different films, and then you kind of see, oh, that relates to that, and that went there, and it's almost like you're finding all of these little Easter eggs. But we've been doing this for so long, it almost feels like it's cumbersome. The great thing about what you've got going on is it's fresh and new, especially to the US market. This is something that we can explore and experience with fresh eyes and for the first time. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about, when you're creating this universe and you're making all of these different connections. So do you know right now what's happening in book 27? Have you gone that far into your own future?
I'd like to compare that to the Avengers franchise. I know the characters that are supposed to meet each other and at what point, roughly. And there are some certain aspects that I know that the overarching story needs to progress. And those are the things that I already know up front. I know where I want to go, where the whole thing is going to end. And then I just try to spread those single things that I need, those simple topics, over the books. And I see where does it fit best, and make sure that every character is developed to the point it needs to be when it gets to the major league, basically. So I have at the same mind map tool that I'm using some sort of it looks like a spider web actually, with all the major characters and how are they connected, where do they meet, when do they meet, what's important for them, and also with important little Easter eggs like special devices or artifacts or anything that's really important later. I already have to place it in the books where they belong. And that's what I need to know up front. That's what I use the mind map for. So this is the stuff I already know in my head. But of course, there are many things that while I'm writing are just coming to me during the process, and then I can just update it and see if I need to do some changes later on. So yeah, it's complicated, but I do have a rough idea already.
Yeah. I mean, that process, it can't be just linear. It has to be something that you're going back and forth and back and forth. And when you think of people who have been more pantsers in their writing, if you think of the TV show, the series Lost, right? They were just writing by the seat of their pants the entire time. And in the end, it just kind of unfrayed, right? There was, you expected stuff to come together that never did. So the genius in this and the genius in what you're doing is you're there, that like, you're not going to put something in one of the early books that's not going to pay off at some point. We might not know when, we might not know how. It's like this long thread, right? That just kind of weaves itself through this amazing universe. And that's brilliant. Thank you for doing that. That props to you. Yeah.
And notice, especially in Germany, I have published book number 8 a couple of weeks ago. And some of the people who read it, they gave me the review, and they told me that I was looking for the connection to the other books, and it was a bit frustrating because I couldn't find any. And that's what I kind of want them to do. I want them to look for clues and then don't find them, and then for the next book, that finally is the moment where people think like, "Whoa, okay, that's it. Now it's going on," and it's like boom, and that's what I want to reach with this. I want to get people questioning and asking and riddling about it, and then it comes around the counter. Bow. There you go.
Yeah. And again, that's the sign of a really good writer and a really good way of crafting a story. Because if people get exactly what they want when they expect it, then it's not fun. Like, then there's no surprises in it for them. So talk a little bit about who you feel this book and the entire series is for. Who's your target audience?
Usually when I'm writing a book, I'm writing it in a way that I would enjoy if I would read it. So basically everybody who is at least with their interests somewhat similar to me will enjoy it. I'm pretty sure of that. So that means everybody who's into the superhero concept, everybody who's into science fiction, who's into fantasy, because there are always some aspects of both in my books. You have some science fiction. This one is, of course, majorly science fiction, but there will be things that they cannot explain, which are based on magic, which comes later. So for everybody, something will be in there. And the first book, especially now, the Commander 1, he's not a hero right away. So it's his origin story, which means he starts out as a youngster who has to learn from scratch, which is especially interesting, I think, for new adults, for younger people who can relate to it, and then basically try and walk along with Carter through his storyline, through his books, and grow with him. So that's if someone is looking for a longer story, which can take a while, of course, but they want to get into a series. So they really invest some time in it, and they know there's some more coming up. That's exactly what I do.
Ooh, I love it. Well, and I have to imagine too that maybe dads who might have been introduced to Star Wars when they were young, who want to now share that magic, that sense of wonder when you just start something like Star Wars. Because I mean, way back then, that was revolutionary, right? That was amazing. Yeah. And now it's become this entire franchise. So dads who might have a son or a daughter that, want to grow up to be just like dad, can introduce them to your series and let their child kind of experience that all over from scratch, so to speak.
Pretty sure, yeah. I mean, I don't have the lightsaber in it, which was a big reason for me to watch Star Wars. Yeah, but still, it's I guess it's pretty new. So, especially if you know that he's trained, and then in the end of the book, he's actually done with his training, and that's what the action should actually really begin. And so the next book I can already say, because it's out in Germany, that's where it really actually starts. The true action is going on. So he's getting into the action, he's battling everybody. And the first book is a preparation to that. And there you have the first battle in it, of course. But that's just the start from what he's capable of. 2 books later, you can't really compare that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and that's what we love about characters. We'd like to see them start off. We'd like to see them fail. We'd like to see them flounder and then come into their own. That's what makes them such great, compelling, and realistic characters. And I have to wonder too, because I know that you like video games. So do you feel that there's some crossover in your audience to gamers? Will people who play video games enjoy this book series?
They definitely should. I can also talk about the the results I got in Germany. Some people were telling me like, "Hey man, that's reminding me of the Mass Effect series." And I'm like, "Yes," and that's where I got my inspiration from. So all my books are somewhat connected to either TV shows or movies or video games, because that's where I get lots of ideas that I'm trying to like get into my stories. Those components that I love about it, I want to use them too, of course. So especially the commander, that's basically, it's the first idea sparked when I played Mass Effect, and that's what you can see. If you know the game, you read the book, and you're like, okay, yeah, there's a connection.
I love it. I love it. Now, do you see this becoming a video game possibly in the future on its own?
Well, I think the potential is there. The story would be big enough for several games or movies or TV shows or whatever. So that's the nice thing about the crossover stuff. What could be better for those people from Netflix than to use a story that has potential for years?
Yeah. Well, that's what they like to see too. They want things that have legs, that have the ability to grow and grow and grow. Because if they're going to invest in, one film or one TV show, they want to know that it has that exponential possibility for growth. So congrats on being able to deliver that, and fingers crossed, you never know where this might lead. And you touched on some of the stuff that's coming in the next book or two. Can you dig into that a little bit more and tell us a bit more about what you see on your horizon?
So as mentioned before, this first book is about Carter's first years in military training. So he starts out as a youngster who has no experience with battle whatsoever. And he's going through those 2 years training and getting ready to actually go out there and fight for humanity. And the second book is then his third year. That usually should be some practical things, like he should go out, use his training on spaceships, on patrol missions and stuff like that. But this is, it's not as easy as he thought it would be, because he's quickly reminded who he is. He's the son of the pioneer for Synthium on Utopia, so it's not as simple for him after his training. They are going to get him to places he didn't expect. He will face threats he didn't expect. So it would quickly be way more scary for him, actually, than he thought it would be, because he's not staying on Utopia. He's dragged out through the whole galaxy right away. And this is, this is the second book. It's about his adventures while he's still new to the military. And there are lots of things that I know that readers were surprised would happen. So I really hope that we can get this to the US as well soon.
Yes, exactly. What's book number 2 and book number 3 called?
The second one I call Downfall. It's also called Omni Legends, the Commander, and it has the subtitle Downfall. And the third one will be called Synthium, based on the material they have on Utopia.
Now, when you're pulling for inspiration, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, but you had a girlfriend or have a girlfriend that helped inspire you to put this all down. Tell us about that a little bit.
Yeah, I started writing, I think it was in 2010. I just did it as a hobby. I thought like, okay, I can scratch that off my bucket list. Just think about a story that I would like to read, write it down, publish it just for myself so I can put it on my bookshelf and be happy about it. And I did that with 2 books. Each of them had like 500 pages. They were like huge and heavy. And no one bought them because they were just impossible to read. So small letters. I had no idea what I was doing. But yeah, I was done with it. And I thought, okay, cool. Did that. Move on to the next. And then I met my girlfriend. And she saw those books in my shelf and she was like, dude, was that you? And I read it out to her. She's not really interested into fantasy or anything like that. So, but I read it out to her and she said like, what the heck? You wrote that in, I think the second book I wrote within 6 or 7 months. And she told me, you got to continue to do that because that's a gift to have all those ideas and bring it together. And then I sat down and I had a script left over I did never touch really. I wrote the script that I never followed up through with it. And then I thought, okay, why not? If she's so enthusiastic about it, why not try to do it a little more serious this time? And that's where I sat down, and that's where was also the week where I drafted the major idea for the Omni Legends series. Started out with already, at the beginning I was 20 books that I had in mind. By now I'm almost at 40. So it develops as I go.
Wow. That is quite an undertaking. Well, and I think she is absolutely right. I mean, it's a sign of your creativity and your brilliance. And it's nice that she was able to recognize that because that was one of the things that brought this story to the masses. She's part of your journey as well. That's pretty awesome.
So she gets a mention in every book.
Good for her. She deserves it. Tell everybody where people can find you and the books and follow not only the book's journey, but yours as well, your website, your social media.
Yeah, so the books, of course, can be found basically everywhere you can find books. The ebook is, for now, only available on Amazon. And if you're not sure where to find it, everything that's related to my books, which means also short stories that I hand out for free, and the Omni Wiki, if people lose track of everything over time, can be found on my website, which is omni-legends.com. I have everything there, and I update it almost every 2 days myself. And then I am also, of course, on Facebook, on Instagram. Facebook is also Omni Legends. That's what the page is called. And on Instagram, it's kevin.groh.autor. It's the German version, no H.
Excellent. Kevin, thank you so much for being here on the show and sharing with us your books, your Omni Legends series, and the Commander. I appreciate you being here with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You bet. And thank you, everybody, for being here on the Books That Make You show. You can find out more about us on our website. It's booksthatmakeyou.com. And you can follow us on Facebook as well as Instagram. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, all of my bookish buddies, please enjoy all of the books that make you exactly who you are.
The executive producer for Books That Make You is Desiree Duffy. Produced and sound mastered by Phil Giangrande. Engineering by Dave Nabox. Social media and promotion by Bree Sweeter. For more, visit booksthatmakeyou.com.